shortly before, about 12 hours before Michael Brown returned to the store and shortly before he was shot. That has generated some inquiries and questions from both the public and from the media regarding the content, the source, the origin of that particular video. The video is indeed security footage from the market that night. On August the 14th, the county police, during the investigation, were advised that Michael Brown had come into the store somewhere around midnight, and according to the employees talking to the police that day, had attempted to steal something. They also indicated that it had been captured on the security videos. So we secured a search warrant to obtain the hardware and the hard drive. Everything's downloaded on the hard drive, recorded on a hard drive in this entire system. That search warrant, we got possession of the equipment on August the 15th of 2014. The particular video was downloaded in its entirety, and we'll have a copy of the entire thing for you as soon as we're finished here. But it starts at about 3 or 4 minutes before Mr. Brown and his companions pulled onto the parking lot of the store, and it ends about 2 minutes after he and his companions pulled off of the parking lot. Shows 4 different angles, 2 from the parking lot, 1 from each side in the parking lot, 1 from inside the store, looking from front to back that covers the customer side of the counter along with the back of the store where their coolers are. And then the 4th one is from the behind the counter, looking towards the counter itself. In a nutshell, what that shows is that Mr. Brown entered the store, entered by himself, but arrived with other people who never got out of the car, went back to the cooler, got a couple cold drinks out of the cooler, went up to the there is no audio with this, by the way, but went up to the counter, clearly ordered or asked for a couple boxes of cigarillos. The clerk put those in the bag along with the drinks that he had. Mr. Brown put something on the counter. There's a discussion clearly going on there. Everything's in the bag. Mr. Brown and the clerks were examining whatever it was he put on the counter. Mr. Brown had a discussion with them, picked up the bag, started to walk out of the store. One of the clerks said something to him or more. He returned, put the bag back on the counter, continued a discussion with them, and then took something off of the counter itself and walked out of the store. The clerks then, as the entire video shows, the clerks then took the cigarillos out of the bag, put them back onto the rack behind the counter. Another clerk took the cold drinks and back to the cooler and put them back in the cooler. That whole video was examined certainly very on in this. We were well aware of it. Of course, we issued the search warrant in order to obtain it. It was determined early on, this is not new, everybody knew about it. It was determined that it was neither relevant nor material to anything that occurred later that day around noon in the store or on Canfield Drive. As I'm sure you recall, I indicated that we were putting everything in front of the grand jury that would have been admissible at trial had there been any indictment out of it. This clearly would not have been admissible, and so that was not presented then to the grand jury, which means that then it wasn't released. But I think it's important to note that the conversation the police had with the store employees is documented in the police report, which was released on November 24th. Their application for a search warrant, the discussion about getting a search warrant for this information is also in that same police report, and then ultimately a description of the content of the video is in that police report, all of which was released on November 24th, 2014 as part of the release that I made that night after the grand jury returned its verdict. So in answer to the question, this is not new information. It's certainly not a surprise to anyone. It's certainly not relevant or material to anything that occurred, as I said, later in the day around noon at the store or shortly after that on Canfield Drive. So with that, then that's pretty much the extent of it. As I said, we have copies of the entire video, and I think that's very important. Number one, it's documented in the report, so it's not as though this was hidden away somewhere, as this fellow with his video project was trying to say, well, actually did say, it's documented in the police report. And if you look even at his pathetic video, it shows the police report where he got the information. So it's all there, and it's been there since since November of 2014. It said it's available. It's not edited. It is from start to finish. It said a few minutes before he arrived on the parking lot up until a few minutes after he leaves the parking lot. And those will be available. We'll try to get it up online for somebody whoever wants that.
Mr. McCulloch, do you think the video, the way it was released in the documentary, was fair and accurate, or did they edit out any portions to put a spin on it?
Well, I'll tell you what. Take a look at what this fellow put into his documentary, and take a look at the real video, and you answer that question. I was clearly an attempt to distort this and to turn it into something it isn't. You know, to get back to another big lie. I mean, pretty clearly what went on in there was no transaction. There was certainly an attempt to barter for these goods, but the store employees had no involvement at all in that. They didn't accept. No, they didn't do that. And when he left, they put everything back on the counters where they belonged and went about their business.
Well, last question for me, in light of the uproar we had last night because of the documentary, you say it was improperly edited. How do you feel about the message that they're putting out?
Well, I think it's a big part of the reason why I'm here now. You know, in the past, while the investigation was ongoing, we weren't able to do that. There is no investigation ongoing now. The information is right here. It's been out there. It's not new. It's not, you know, all of you had access to it, and I assume everybody read all the reports and knew very well this was in there. So it's just, as I said, it's an attempt to generate his 15 minutes, which he got. So
we're going to see the video, but what specifically are you saying was documented?
Well, just the way it's edited. And when you look at even what he's posted, you can clearly see. I mean, it's a very poor job of editing in the first place, but this is unedited. This shows everything from, as I said, before he got there until after he left. And it's very clear that there was no transaction between the Mr. Brown and the store employees. And the suggestion that he's coming back to pick up what he bartered for is just stupid.
Are you concerned that we're going to see more protests in Ferguson like what
we
did last night?
What we're trying to do is get the information out there now so that people can do that. Now, like this guy, he's going to do what he wants with it. I saw him ranting on some cable show this morning, which kind of gives you an idea what you're dealing with there. So he's going to continue with that. But we're kind of, the idea is to get as much information out, and I hope the entire thing will be broadcast and we'll put it up, so that you can kind of see that. Doesn't mean that you have to like what went on there, but none of this was released by the county police or by the prosecutor's office, again, because it is not relevant or material or admissible in anything that we were investigating during that time frame. So yes, now we want to get that information out there so the public has all that information and knows full well that what this guy's putting out is just nonsense. Okay?
Can I ask you 2 quick legal questions?
What was your last one?
Inadmissible and
correct. Immaterial and irrelevant.
Why is it immaterial and inadmissible?
Well, because it's not relevant to anything that occurred earlier.